My name is David Mann. I am a Johannesburg-based author and a member of the Botsotso Collective. Botsotso is a Joburg-based independent publisher of mostly short-form literature, poetry, prose, and short stories. Started in the 90s by Ike Moyler, Ellen Horwitz, and a bunch of other talented people, and really functions like a roving kind of collective of people interested in writing poetry, music, literature, and the sort. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is our first event of this kind, Botsotso Gatherings. We're interested in gathering really for short, focused periods of time. Sorry, I'm just admitting new people as they come in. Gathering online for brief periods of time and sharing in the wonderful work of poets and writers in our community. Tonight, I am very excited to welcome and introduce you to Sean MacGinty, a Botsotso poet who published his debut collection with Botsotso last year, Returning Signs. Sean has worked in the education NGO sector in South Africa since 2014. He has an MA in creative writing from the University of Cape Town and has had poetry published in New Contrast, New Coin, Litnet, Daily Maverick, Hotazel Review, as well as the Latin American Literary Review. In 2023, one of his poems was shortlisted for South Africa's National Poetry Prize, and he has had poetry written in Spanish anthologized in various publications. Returning Signs is his debut collection. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you.
Joining us tonight is Chiara Coelho, a South African-born teacher of English as a foreign language and a creative writer with many hats. Poetry has always been her natural form of expression, having competed in the top 10 for Poetry Africa in 2022. She has since lived abroad in Doha, in Qatar, and currently resides in Argentina. Welcome, Chiara. That is it from me. Just to say that once again, we have an emphasis on time. I don't know if we're going to have time for a Q&A at the end. It would be lovely, but I'm going to say we probably don't. So can you please put your thoughts, sentiments, questions, burning ideas into the chat, and our poets will try to get to them throughout. Thank you. Over to you, Sean and Chiara.
Oh, thank you very much, David. I think on that note of thanks, I also just like to thank Botsotso and David Mann for organizing this little event, and David obviously for hosting us. Thank you to everyone who's logged on. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being present at this reading, and of course, thank you to Chiara Coelho, my special guest, for agreeing to join the reading and read a couple of poems. I'm looking forward to sharing the reading with Chiara and hearing some of her poems as well. Just checking in the people who have logged on, I'm not sure I recognize all the names. So just for those who I haven't met, as David said, my name is Sean MacGinty. I'm going to be reading some poems from my debut collection of poems, Returning Signs, as David mentioned, was published by Botsotso in December. Of course, yeah, big thank you to Alan Kolsky-Horowitz and the Botsotso team for supporting me and for believing in the work. In fact, I think I'm maybe just gonna quickly pop a link in the chat. The book is available at, I think, a few exclusive books outlets at Clark's bookstore in Cape Town and a few stores in Joburg, but it can be purchased from Botsotso, directly from Botsotso itself, and that link that I've just put into the chat. And for those who are interested, who are outside of South Africa, it's also available on the African Books Collective on their website, for those who may be interested in purchasing the book. Chiara and I thought, just before we get into the poems, as David mentioned, it's there's a lot we want to pack into a short space of time. But just before we get into the poems, we'd like to maybe hear from all of you in the audience about what you like reading, especially in poetry, the themes you like reading in poetry, and what are your favorite themes in poetry. So I'm going to pop this question into the chat. What are your favorite themes in poetry? I'm going to also pop in some options that you can choose. They're not extensive by any means. If you feel there's something that's not in these options that I'm about to put into the chat, you can type that as well. I think maybe we'll give you, say, like about a minute just to think about that and write your answers into the chat. Chiara and I thought identity, tragedy, journeys, personal journeys, the day-to-day human experience, politics, justice, social justice, nature, romance, language itself, places, or open to most themes, or lastly, open to absolutely any theme. Of course, if there's any option there there's a theme that's not in those options, you can feel free to type that into the chat as well. Cool, thanks, Chiara and Hannah. So maybe give thanks, Michaela, as well. We'll give say like 30 or so seconds more before we get into it. Thanks, Tariro. Thanks, Carolina. Maria Laura, thank you as well. Okay, cool. Thanks, Gunther. Thanks, Danielle. Okay, cool. A nice, yeah, Chiara, looks like it's a nice mix, right, of themes we have across, well, across various ones. I think hopefully what we read today will at least cover some of this. I think certainly personal journeys will be covered, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully we'll be able to yeah, I guess deliver, and so we'll see some of the themes come up in what we read. I'm gonna get straight into it. The first poem I'm gonna read from Returning Signs from my book is dedicated to Vika, to Mr. V. I'm not sure if he's connected here, but it's called A Language Sea in Red Land. After a long but good day, now looking for dinner in Estiers and Tanin, listening to you speak to a cashier in Chivenda, I wanted to learn, trying to type into a note in my phone at the pace that you spoke. The words were in your eyes. I could see them rise and crest and roll and stretch and break in hers, leaving her awash. Throughout our trip, with all our encounters, you could dive deeper as we met Limpopo. Parts as dry as seabed, others lush red. We journeyed towards a green horizon, past so many people, our return unknown, and I followed your wet trail of words with every cashier, waitress, car guard, words that took me to an uncertain shore where I set myself adrift in their newborn sea. Okay, so that one was inspired by, I was working with Vika for an education NGO, Leila. We traveled through South Africa visiting schools and provincial education departments, and Vika can speak 9 of South Africa's 12 languages. And everywhere we went, he was able to immediately just start speaking the language and immediately connect with people, which was incredible for me, and that inspired this poem. The next one I'm going to read is called, if I find it here, Narcosis of the Deep. The calling was too great to set free, descending into the heart of the expanse, empty of all breath but one, yours, and go drifting through the deep dark, surrounded by what feels more and more like shelter, cast into an embracing trance. Diving gradually further all around, the pressure compresses the silence, swiftly constricts the warmth of these waters. You are a lighter shadow in this world, in a mass of pure shadow, lost as the last bubbles rising gently to the surface. The warmth returns now, the drift into the deep easier, a peace without the slightest friction, as sound slows to absolute stillness, where finally you can return to the dark, unfound forever. Okay, and the next one I'm going to read is called Mid-Afternoon Before Christmas. The summer grass sunburnt yellow, a siesta wind trails the silence, brushes past the leaves without waking them, pulls the shade to the garden's corners. The wall washed blurry white by the squinting glare except for the streak of dappled shadow from the last trembles of the branches' brief rustling. Inside, a dry Christmas beetle upside down, on the carpet among chairs and a sofa. The lounge crowded just with portraits like one great photograph from before you'd ever arrived. Tomorrow you are leaving, last shreds of adolescence, the home where your presence only ever felt like absence. Okay, and I guess that one's like an expression or a manifestation of a fear of being absent, fear of being physically present, but sort of psychologically or emotionally absent. The next one I'm going to read, I thought that opened it straight onto the page. I can find it here. There we go. Okay, the next one is called Inside Lockdown 2020, as the title suggests, about the lockdown pandemic in South Africa. The gasp of birds replaces the voices now lost to this place, as lost as even the voices of the ghosts here, which die off on surfaces where their breath would linger. After it was declared everyone must be separate. A person through other persons no more. Stay away from everywhere, from everyone. Let feeling dry out in the growing spaces. How can you be apart in a place trying to learn not to be apart, where so many are flung together in a shrinking tin stomach, because before so much was apart, where now the new distance is on doctor's orders, in which love loses its very touch, loses the arms in its embrace, where love now must mutate to spread as words, in droplets, suspended in the air, spoken from afar. Okay, and that's when I guess a lot of writers or poets may have like a piece about the lockdown and that experience. And I guess this tries to look at the irony of that given South Africa's history. The next one I'm going to read, like the ones I've kind of been reading up to now, sort of set in South Africa. This one's set around Cape Town or the coastal regions of the Western Cape. It's called After the Storm. It's dedicated to my wife, Carolina. At the seashore, we would look for what the storm had brought in a rock pool of bone-colored foam, as the wind sucked pockmarks from its topmost broth, netted clumps of kelp, blue bottle tops, a crayfish carapace boiled to marigold bloom, a shoeless sole like a shellless mollusk. Even a knot of flotsam evolving towards coral, the give and take of organic and synthetic. Turquoise ribbons, strips of the distant Caribbean, entwined in splayed rope, thick as sailors' hands, twigs dangling from the breathless plastic of a crushed fizzy drink. All this left behind for us to find after the heart of the storm, dark as fresh-laid road, when the sea makes meaning of its memories, endlessly recycling broken parts of colors and forms. Okay, cool. I'm going to read two more. As I said, up to now, the poems are mostly set around South Africa. I'm going to read two that are set in South America. I'm based as well as Chiara in Buenos Aires in Argentina. And yeah, the first 2/3 of the book deals up with South Africa, and the last third deals with South America. This one is about Buenos Aires. It's set here as well. It's called De Abend Rioplatense. The evening bends into night. Dustlight falls gently from the dusk into the streets canyoned by the buildings growing out of long ago. The fury of the city quietens now, fluttering in the gathering people who flow like river silver. Their words glint with rising tones and lunfardo in a confluence of continents, stirring a nostalgia for something maybe dreamt, a sweet pain, some vague luck, like a naked solar night. Thunder in the distance is beginning. On the outskirts, the muddy water boils with fervor. Okay, and that one, I attempted to play off a poem called The Abend, The Evening by Joseph von Eichendorff, a German romanticist, but sort of set in Buenos Aires, in the modern Buenos Aires, with attempting to put references to Borges, to Alejandro Pizarnik, and some music as well from Buenos Aires. The next one I'm going to read is set in Chile, in a small town in Chile. It's called Segundo Corral, Chile, and it's dedicated to Mikey, Simon, and Rob. High in the Andes, in the spaces between national borders, left outside and around the lines, faded by time and forgotten details, spaces now left to gauchos and huasos, we encounter Segundo Corral. We were not the first people there, and of course, there were some who called it home. In fact, it smacks of fiction to me as well, that it could ever be discovered, that it couldn't be eternal. We crossed the river below on our way, gentle and green, like the flavor of emerald fruit, like a current of fern. Our little boat moved as though it were made of its own muscles, softly flexing its oars over the water without the need to touch the surface. On the other side, we followed a track filled with mud past the football pitch nearby, proud at such heights. On the summit, horses stood on the grass runway of an old one-room airport out of use, while the sun, slow and diluted by sky and mountain air, drops of condensation on its very rays, graze on the snow along the peaks. From inside the village, every time we tried to leave, we were led back to the same point. No directions could bring any clarity. The locals soon left on horseback to travel 6 hours to the next pueblo for that weekend's game of football. At these altitudes, without even enough oxygen for some force to bewitch us, surely, and in a full gathering of forest where there's no place for any guaricho to stand out to bring us harm, we journey through our own labyrinths, through another crossing of liberation, that hundreds of years later remains as though radiation in these mountains, absorbed into their core by the trees, by the stones, all of them diverging from that moment onwards. We broke free of the straight, passing line of seconds, itself fading. Gravity reformed and resettled around us. Time changed all around us, and we became citizens of its new world. Okay, I'm gonna read one more from the book. The first few were set around South Africa, the last two around South America. This one's kind of, the setting, I guess, is kind of open and vague, I guess. It's called Superposition. My voice has never settled here or anywhere, wandering and dwelling in dusty stories, its tracks not yet covered up by the wind. I yearn for myself, to reach far and wide, so far and wide my body stretches to the limits of where sound can still be heard. Then vanishing across space into echoes, fainter and fainter, back into the universe, back from where it came, back into you. Among the colors that flow through my speech, in the spaces between the troughs and peaks of my voice is the space for you to fill yours. Pour your voice into mine. Let the viscous sound waves rise so that you locate me and you in me, so that we settle in each other, so that if ever we are to compete, we can do nothing else but out-listen each other. Okay, so those are the poems I wanted to read from Returning Signs. If we have time, I'd like to read 2 or 3 new ones I've been working on, but now I want to hand over to Chiara Coelho to read a couple of her poems.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for that reading, Sean. I hadn't heard those poems before. I love the oxygen to bewitch us. That's a good one. That's really good, yeah. Okay, so I have 2 original poems that I felt related to the main themes of Sean's Returning Signs. And what came up was spaces, places, and immigration, because both of us are living outside of our home country. So I will start. The first one is called The Migrants' Conflict. I left you so that I could tell stories about you, from that melancholic desire those that yearn know. I would appreciate you if I could no longer see you. I would write an endless poem. Does that make me a masochist? I left you so that I could yearn for you. And now that we're apart, I will tell the world about you. I'll make art so they can feel you without having seen or touched you. You will remain in my memory as vivid as the day I left you. I will love you the way you should have been. So it's a little ambiguous about who you is, but I wrote that with my home city in mind. I was missing home, and that's what I came up with. The second poem is titled Egoli. And the South Africans know that Egoli is the other name for, or one of the other names for Johannesburg. And yeah, for those that don't, now you know. It means gold because, yeah, Johannesburg was one of the central parts of gold mining in South Africa. Egoli. Shiny, lifeless, and cold, Igoli, the city of gold. Broke the Nangian buildings built on hustlers' dreams, bustling city streets, gilded leaves, monopolistic fiends chasing money trees. Hallowed golden lump, enough to feed a country. A mother's quiet prayer follows her daughter as the unforgiving cold strikes like a starving snake. The morning smog standing thick as if frozen in time. A lump in her throat forms. This week, another girl was found, shiny, lifeless, and cold, in Egoli, the city of gold. Jacarandas claim the streets and steep into erosion. Igoli is lilac and stained with shit. Igoli is mine and stained with shit. Igoli is near where the charted Thames doesn't flow. Warm smiles flow, authenticity flows, resilience flows, silent prayers of ancestors flow, and suddenly a stunning African sun sets upon brobe the Nangian buildings built on hustlers' dreams. And I am noticing that the Oriet city still gleams. Igoli, the city of gold. Okay, that's it.
Great, thank you very much, Chiara. Beautiful poems. It's always wonderful, I guess, when poets feel like there are themes that resonate, or that poets or writers are dealing with similar themes, and obviously with, well, as you mentioned, with spaces, with place, you deal so wonderfully with both. First of all, like as from the immigrant sort of perspective, right, and feelings, and then evoking Igoli like in such a wonderful, vibrant way. So yeah, thank you very much for sharing those poems. Thank you as well. I liked how you read them as well. It's a reminder I need to slow down and take a breath, I think, when I'm reading. So yeah, again, thank you, Chiara. I'm going to I'd like to read 2 or 3 new ones. I think we're still okay for time, right, David? I think we're still pretty good.
About 15 minutes left, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. But we're well ahead of time. Okay, cool. So I'm going to read 2 or 3 new ones. The first one is called Autumn Signals. The grass cozy with thorns under acrylic clouds. Inside, wind tumbling down a chimney. Every day's a longing Sunday. The leaves curl and turn the color of departure. A leather suitcase left behind on the station platform. Some say we head into old time, huddle into the past, submit to cycles of more waiting than falling among heaped leaves and breath of wet bark. These days mean we cross the garden to collect pine cones in the common, shriveled hearts entering hibernation. Okay, so that's the first of the new one I'd like to read. And this one is coming back, I think, here, right, to Buenos Aires. It's called Barrio Once. For those who don't know, it's a part of the city, kind of near the downtown. It's called Barrio Once. Walking to work on the pavement, past the storefront shutters rolling open, shopkeepers washing down the paving slabs, sweeping the water to the curb. Walking, following the hand trolleys as they clang up and down La Calle Perón, in step with the street's motion. But as I respond to a hurried question for directions, my groggy tongue slips round the word's edges, like wind through a flag in a single billow, draping from a baroque balcony, fading over a jacaranda branch, its leaves of fern silk, above the passing blue and red bus with its scrolling LED sign. Sunrise lingering across a building's face breaks the cold breath of morning like yolk in a cluttered kitchen. But the bus's engine can't crush the cumbia throbbing from a phone in the corner kiosk. This melody among my own fossilized words inside me. As I go mazing my way through the city, indifferent to the indifference that conceived her in foreign echoes. I stopped to devour the scenes like prayer, to meditate on each building in its glorious decay. Elegancia aspera, I keep repeating to myself until it's a mantra of empty sound. The uneven architecture of these mixed heritage buildings. The castle with the tufts of stretching weeds from its crumbling turrets, with the ground floors lined by phone accessory outlets, resembling hair salons below pink and purple shop signs. And when these signs peel open across the many stores lining these blocks, they reveal no new secret insights. The message sinks, ever more porous, below its surface. Even after all I've dug up of myself, still I must excavate the words from my resinous neurons, my sulfate tongue. I carry on, print my steps on the cobbles, school kids running past to buy alfajores or hot dogs sprinkled with papita pie. They ignore the old restaurant, its menu written on green cardboard stuck to the door, inside looking more and more like a public bathroom with rows of tables for two, where the aging men with slick-backed hair talk and bicker, their breath alight with stories from the barrio. I come to another corner and my eyes inhabit the Farmacia Social, how it endures despite the poster which reads Se vende, block in venta, block for sale, as does the queue of people gathered outside. Like so many of their grandparents, I came here and knew I could never arrive only once. If I am to become these streets, I must look for their lost instinct, biting my mother tongue, dragging my dripping roots through onsen, until there are no signs of the way back. Yeah, cool. And yeah, I'll read one more. This, I guess, crossing back across the Atlantic. This is called Swellendam. We lie in the sun's afternoon syrup, where the river varnishes the pebbles by the banks. I follow you along the river's lips, brush your flanks as you step into the water's unmade sheets, crumpled into mush. Around the stones, pondweed down your foot's taut inner arch. Then you're gone, among the rocks' froth running downstream, like a train's swallowed cough trailing into the night before when we couldn't sleep. I dive in, my eyes tea-glazed, while underwater I feel as separate from everything as my muted hearing. You emerge as a body lifting into loaded flight, pulling past wavelets towards the shoreline. I give up in the silt, return to the grass. We can't find the fleeting otter and forgo the clumsy kayak. Suddenly clouds roll in like a loyal lamb, until then forgotten, the fresh water still drying around your raised goose flesh, your swimsuit darker, heavier. I see the glancing river surface through the glass in my hand. I pour then pass you your uncurated cup. Cool. I think that was all I'd wanted to read for today. I think we did well. I think in half an hour we got everything in we wanted to do, right? Short and sweet. Thank you for the comments, Gerardo. Thank you, Maria Laura. Cool. I think then, David, we can open this now for any time for any questions.
That would be lovely. Yeah, thank you both for that. I think anybody who has questions, if you could pop them into the chat, that's probably the easiest. While we do that, can I start us off with a question? It's occurring to me that, you know, as Chiara mentioned, you're both living and writing in places that are not your cities, your countries of birth. And I'm thinking about writers like Zoe Wickham, who are sort of the great chroniclers of South Africa through stories. She left Cape Town to live in Edinburgh when she was about 22, I think, meaning the majority of those texts that we know were written outside the kind of act of writing back to a place. What's it like for the two of you to write back to place? Does it offer a clarity? Yeah, what's the experience?
Yeah, Chiara, what do you think? If is it cheating if I ask you to answer first, or?
Well, it's a really good question. Thank you, David. I think it's more like a coping mechanism for myself. It's difficult choosing to live outside of your home country in a place where people speak a different language, they have a different way of life as well. On a personal level, it's a great experience. It's life-changing, but it is just as hard. So I found that when I write about the place that I miss or my home, then I feel closer to it. So it becomes like a coping mechanism, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with what Chiara said. I think it is like in a way, maybe sounds a bit weird, but you sometimes you do kind of get more clarity, as you mentioned, David, or you kind of come to understand, you can understand another place, or say the place where you grew up, through your new home, right? Or through your new place. You can sort of understand it through that. Through the original place through the new place. It certainly helps me kind of sort of understand or make sense of South Africa through Argentina, which I guess maybe perhaps socioeconomically is a country that's similar or has certain things in common. And I also agree, one does kind of feel closer to it in a way. Sometimes, I ask myself, are these, how clear are these memories? How much is memory being creative or inventive, or how much is it actually like an actual kind of memory? But I do think there's like a very interesting perspective it does give you.
Great, thank you both. I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. Danielle is just saying, Chiara, I love how you articulated the juxtaposition of Johannesburg because it's a daily reality. Absolutely, 100% agree. Perhaps a final one from me then is a very simple question. Where can we find more of your work, either in book form, upcoming book form, online? Where can we read you both?
Sorry, I just have one question for Sean. Is it all right? Sorry, I get delayed reaction.
Absolutely.
So I really love the poem about the Chilean village, Sean. The personification stood out for me, like the boat having muscles. It's incredible. Did that poem come as one poem to you? Like, did the personification of everything come at once while you were there, or did it come over time?
Cool, thanks. A good question. I think it did come over time. I remember it was a really, it's based on a real experience, an amazing, it was a phenomenal experience, kind of part of a journey that I guess, one can say is transformative or positive, is transformative in a positive way. And I think right afterwards, I tried to write something about it, which didn't seem like it worked for me. It didn't seem like it did it justice. And then like over time, there was some of, as you mentioned, some of those like little things about the boat or some of those like descriptions, they kind of came slowly with time, right? It was something, I guess I tried to be patient and let maybe time do its job, seeing as this thing was so impactful for me in a positive way that the rest just, it kind of slowly revealed itself with time. Because I think I finally maybe put it together some years after that actual experience into the form it's in now.
Very cool.
Cool, thank you. And then I guess, David, you mentioned our writing. I mean, obviously, well, I've been speaking about the book, right, from my book published by Botsotso, Returning Signs. I've had a couple of, I tried to write a bit in Spanish. I've had a couple of things in Spanish published in the Hurlingham Post Cultura. Some stuff in Spanish that was published, I think, about a month ago. They're online on the website online, and I think that's for the moment the most like sort of recent stuff I guess I've had published. Obviously, three of those last three were new, so I'm working on stuff all the time. I've tried to start a little Substack with a couple of short stories, so I guess as writers when one keeps going, right? And Chiara, what about you?
I also try to keep myself busy all the time. I suppose I am working on my own anthology of poetry. In the meantime, you can read some poems that I posted today's poems because they've been read and they're shared with everyone. So to read it and see it in its written form, especially the migrants' conflict, is really interesting. I'll post my Substack link in the chat if you would like to read my poetry. I will add more things as time goes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both. That was such a joy. And thank you everybody for joining us tonight and being such an engaged audience as well. We will have more, so please follow Botsotso and join us for future events. Thank you both.
Yes,
Cool.
thank you so much, David and Sean, for this opportunity, and thank you to all my loved ones who joined.
Okay.
Yeah,
Ciao,
thank you guys.
everyone.
Yeah, again, thank you, David. Thanks, Chiara, and thank you everyone for joining today. Hope to see you guys soon at another reading soon.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Bye,
Ciao.
until next time.
Bye.